Wind howled across the high desert runway as the sun bled gold over the rust-colored hills. The base was silent except for the groan of metal cooling, the stutter of broken fans, and the distant murmur of soldiers gathering around the wreck. A fighter jet had limped home, its nose charred, its landing gear groaning under the weight of near death. The air stank of scorched fuel and molten copper. Mechanics swarmed like ants, barking orders, eyes wide with urgency, except for one man, standing still. Noah Briggs. He was 37, lean with shoulders that sloped like they carried the weight of 100 regrets. His jumpsuit was threadbare at the knees, streaked with oil and time. A battered wrench dangled from his belt, and his hands, those skilled, silent hands, rested in his pockets like they'd forgotten how to shake. He stood just outside the circle of uniforms, watching the smoke curl from the cracked engine, housing like a memory, refusing to die. "They're saying it stalled midair," someone muttered behind him. "No power to the stabilizers. Just dropped like a rock." Briggs didn't speak. His eyes were locked on the damage, calculating. He wasn't supposed to be this close. He was a civilian contractor, demoted and reassigned after what the base quietly called a Lancaster incident. No badges, no clearance. Just grease on his face and a silent agreement not to make noise. But the jet before him was familiar. Too familiar. Footsteps clicked behind him, sharp, precise. General Riker. Towering, decorated, and cold-eyed, Riker was the embodiment of everything Briggs no longer believed in. Rank, reputation, and protocol over truth. "Look at that mess," Riker said, almost casually, as if observing a weather pattern. 3 million in engineering, and the damn thing chokes above 20,000 feet. Noah didn't reply. The general turned to face him, his mouth curling in that signature smirk the base knew too well. "What do you think, Briggs? Want to give a shot? Maybe sprinkle some fairy dust, whisper sweet nothings to the turbine." Chuckles followed from the nearby officers. Laughter coated in cruelty. A technician even offered Noah a wrench with mock ceremony, bowing low as if knighting him. The joke rippled through the group. Noah's gaze shifted to the wrench, then to the jet. He hadn't touched a machine like this in 5 years. Not since Lancaster. Not since the fire. Not since his brother's screams had been drowned in static and altitude. He clenched his jaw. Riker shrugged. Didn't think so. But Noah stepped forward. The laughter stopped. He climbed the maintenance ladder, each rung groaning like it objected. When he reached the engine, his hand traced the intake's edge. Still warm. Still breathing. He closed his eyes, listened. Not to the whispers around him, but to the language of metal and pressure, of carbon trails and misaligned valves. The jet was hurt. Not dead. Not yet. "What the hell is he doing?" one officer whispered. Riker crossed his arms, but didn't stop him. There was something fascinating about watching a man trespass into his own past, like a ghost trying to haunt itself. Noah opened the panel near the turbine manifold. Burned wires. Melted insulation. But the failure wasn't mechanical. It was procedural. A miscalibration. Something small, stupid. He could fix it. But that wasn't the question. The question was, should he? He heard his brother's voice again, haunting hoarse from a memory buried in smoke. Asterisk, don't let them bury your fire. Asterisk, Noah descended slowly. He didn't say a word. He walked to the supply station, ignored the clerks, and pulled a requisition form. His handwriting was deliberate, exact. 3 parts. 1 ancient. 1 obsolete. 1 nearly impossible to install. Without factory equipment. He slid it across the counter. The clerk stared at it, then at him. "You're serious?" Noah nodded once. "You don't have authorization." "I will," Noah said. The clerk hesitated. But something in Noah's eyes, steel beneath ash, made him nod back. He returned to the hangar alone that night. No cameras. No supervision. Just shadows and humming electricity, and a whisper of wind through broken vents. He rolled up his sleeves, knelt before the jet like a priest before an altar, and began to work. Hours passed. Midnight crawled in, dragging with it exhaustion and silence. Noah's knuckles bled from stripped bolts. His breath fogged in the cold air. He worked by instinct. No manuals, no screens, just memory and feel and the dull rhythm of the tools. Sparks lit his face in flickers. His shadow danced across the fuselage like a phantom from another life. At some point, a thermos of black coffee appeared on the toolbox. Still hot. He turned. Chief Lalo stood there, tall, lean, wrapped in an old bomber jacket with silver feather stitched on the sleeve. He'd been a test pilot once, before politics grounded him. Some said he was half machine himself. Others said he saw spirits in the clouds. No one really knew. Lalo said nothing, just nodded once, like one warrior acknowledging another. Then he vanished into the dark again. By dawn, Noah had rewired half the subvalve system with salvage cables and an old flow regulator. It wasn't beautiful, but it would breathe. He wiped the sweat from his eyes and looked up as the first rays of light split the sky. The base stirred in the distance. Bugles, boots, bureaucracy. But here, in the sacred stillness of machine and man, something had shifted. Footsteps again. Riker. The general looked at the jet, then at Noah, covered in grease, bleeding at the knuckles, eyes hollow with something older than fatigue. You fix it? Noah didn't answer. He just tossed the wrench onto the floor. It clanged once, sharp, decisive. Riker snorted. You're insane. Noah turned away, but Riker wasn't done. You realize what happens if you're wrong. Noah paused, then looked over his shoulder. I've already lived through worse. Riker stared after him as he walked away. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Back inside the hangar, the jet hissed softly, alive again. But the real engine that had come back to life wasn't made of titanium or steel. It was Noah, and somewhere above a rising sun, clouds gathered, whispers of what was coming. They didn't know it yet, but the man they'd laughed at was about to rewrite everything they believed about flight, fire, and fate. The jet screamed to life like a phoenix choking on its first breath. Flames spat from the exhaust in short, angry bursts. The ground crew scrambled backward, shielding their eyes, but Noah stood his ground, one hand on the panel, the other clutching a tattered checklist he didn't need to read. She shouldn't be standing, muttered one of the engineers under his breath. That engine was dead. Noah didn't hear him. Or maybe he did and just didn't care. The moment wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving something to himself. That he hadn't lost the feel, the instinct. That the machine still talked to him. That his brother's ghost hadn't been wrong to believe in him. Across the tarmac, General Riker stood with arms crossed, sunglasses hiding whatever passed for doubt or curiosity. Beside him, Chief Lalo leaned against a rusted tow truck, one boot resting on a wheel, chewing on something unlit, and watching like a man who already knew the ending but stayed for the journey anyway. She flies, Riker said at last. Noah's voice was low. Barely. She's still got a turbine issue at high altitude. If you push past 20,000 feet, she might choke again. Might. Riker raised an eyebrow. She's temperamental. Like you, the general muttered. Then louder, I'm taking her up. Noah turned. You're not cleared. I cleared myself. You need to recalibrate the stabilizer. She's already airborne in 10. Noah's stomach dropped. You're going to push her past 20 without a field check. Riker smirked. I don't need permission from a mechanic. Before Noah could respond, the general was striding across the tarmac, barking orders to prep the bay. 2 minutes later, the hatch hiss closed behind him. The cockpit sealed. The tower began its countdown. Noah climbed to the observation deck, breath shallow, eyes fixed on the jet as it roared down the runway. For a moment, it was majestic. Wheels lifting, shadow dancing across the concrete, nose slicing to the morning haze. Then came the silence. Not peace, asterisk vacuum star. No audio. No response. Base, this is Echo 1, crackled the radio at last. We've lost main thrust. Altimeters dropping fast. 10,000 feet and falling. Technicians froze. Repeat. Riker's voice cut in, urgent now. Engine stalling. Backup won't engage. Noah didn't wait. He sprinted from the tower and leapt into the emergency bay. Lalo was already there, strapping on the spare flight harness like he'd been waiting for this all morning. You fly? Noah asked, half panicked. Lalo's answer was a single nod. They climbed into the secondary jet, a sleeker, stripped-down version built for recon, not rescue. Noah slipped into the back seat, wiring tools already in hand. "Tell me you've done mid-air tan repairs," he muttered through the comms. "No," Lalo said, tightening his gloves. "But I've jumped out of one at 30,000 feet with no chute." Noah blinked. "What?" "Trust me." The recon jet launched into the air like a bullet chasing fate. Wind ripped at the seams. Noah's heart pounded against his ribs like it wanted to escape. Ahead, the failing fighter spiraled, nose jerking up, then down, wings trembling. Riker's voice came through again, clipped and harsh. Still no power. Backups fried. "You didn't shut the subflow." Noah shouted. "What?" "Emergency override beneath the auxiliary. I'm locked in." "Then we're doing this the hard way." Lalo nosed him closer, the jets slicing through cloud layers like blades. Turbulence rocked them. Below, the desert stretched wide and merciless, dotted with rocks that looked like skulls. Noah pulled on a tether and yanked open the canopy. Wind screamed in his ears. He stood, bracing himself, a magnetic patch kit strapped across his chest. This was madness, insanity, but so was dying in silence. "Closer," he shouted. "Any closer and we trade paint." Lalo growled. "Do it." With a grunt, Lalo dropped altitude by inches, aligning them. Noah leapt. The air caught him like a fist, yanked at his arms, ripped the breath from his lungs. He slammed into the side of Riker's jet with a grunt, magnets holding. His gloves found the access panel. He ripped it open. Wires hissed and sparked like snakes warning him away. One slip, and he'd be pulp on the desert floor. 5,000 feet, the base called. "Repeat, 5,000. He tore the burnt regulator from its housing, replaced it with the new one, twisted, locked, sealed. His fingers bled. The panel clicked shut. "Reset the core," he screamed. Inside, Riker's trembling hand flipped the switch. The engine whined, choked, then roared. A phoenix again. The jet stabilized, straightened, climbed. Noah exhaled, slumped against the fuselage. The world spun around him in dizzying, beautiful arcs. Lalo swooped under, caught him mid-drop, snapped the tether, and pulled him into the recon jet like a hawk reclaiming its prey. They landed to silence. No cheering, no applause, just the heavy sound of boots on gravel and engines cooling down. Noah stepped onto the tarmac, breathing hard, skin pale, eyes burning. Riker approached, helmet off, sweat trailing down his face. "You're insane," he said. Noah stared at him. "You flew anyway." "I had to," Riker said, "because I didn't believe you." Noah looked past him to the jet, still humming, scarred, alive. "You trusted the jet more than the man who built it," he said. There was no anger in his voice, just exhaustion, just truth. Riker said nothing. Later, back in the maintenance bay, Noah sat on an overturned crate, hands wrapped, knees aching. The adrenaline had drained, and what remained was silence. Lalo approached, set something down beside him, a torn patch from the old jet, blackened by flame. "You earned that," he said. Noah picked it up, traced the stitching with a thumb. "What now?" he asked. Lalo smiled. "Now the real flight begins." And for the first time in 5 years, Noah Briggs allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't broken. Not anymore. Snow battered the windshield like 1,000 knives as the jet shook violently, its wounded engine screaming in protest. Visibility had dropped to zero. Below them stretched a white ocean of jagged peaks and frozen ravines. Somewhere in that wilderness, a U.S. intelligence operative was stranded, extraction critical. And Noah Briggs, for the first time in his life, was riding shotgun in a war-zone bird, with nothing but duct tape and a patch flow regulator keeping the machine alive. General Riker's hands gripped the throttle with the calm of a man too proud to admit he was nervous. Noah could see it anyway, in the taut line of his jaw, in the way he checked the altimeter 3 times in 1 minute. The F-35 was pushing the limit of what it should be flying in. The storm was building fast, a cyclone tightening its teeth. "We got 20 minutes before that squall shuts everything down," Riker said into the comms. "That regulator won't hold in this cold," Noah warned. "We drop below 50% power and the bleed lines freeze." Riker didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew this flight was a gamble built on desperation. The only available aircraft had been the same jet Noah resurrected days ago. No one else trusted it. No one else had the nerve. But when the call for emergency rescue came through, remote coordinates, hostile terrain, possible insurgent interference, Riker had turned to Noah and said only 3 words. "You coming, mechanic?" Now here they were, slicing through a war between sky and mountain, both men relying on a machine born from shared distrust and reluctant respect. The storm hit harder than forecasted. Lightning cracked to their left, and the jet rocked sideways. "I'm losing rudder feedback," Riker barked. "We're going manual." Noah reached under the console, flipping open a panel he'd modified himself. He bypassed the stabilizer feed. Sparks jumped across his fingers. The cockpit lights flickered, once, twice, then stabilized. "Don't you die on me now," he muttered to the plane. "Talking to the bird?" Riker asked. "She listens better than most people I know." The terrain ahead opened like a scar. Deep, jagged ridges carved by glaciers. There was no good place to land. Not for miles. There, Noah pointed, a plateau barely the length of a football field, rimmed with ice. "That's not a landing zone," Riker growled. "It is now." Riker didn't argue. He banked hard left, and the jet dropped fast. Too fast. The rear gear hit first, skidding on packed snow. The nose slammed down next, buckling slightly. For a second, it seemed like they might slide over the edge, but the machine held. By some miracle, it held. Silence followed. Noah sat still, ears ringing, heart pounding. Riker pulled off his helmet and looked over. "You alive?" "Depends on your definition." Outside, the cold hit them like a punch to the chest. Wind clawed at their gear, trying to strip them bare. Visibility was a thin white veil, enough to move but not to see far. The GPS locator was already glitching. They started walking. Riker ahead with a service rifle slung across his chest, Noah carrying a sealed thermal kit with tools, rations, and a backup transmitter. 15 minutes in, the world felt like it was swallowing them. Trees appeared, tall, skeletal things crusted in frost. Every sound echoed, amplified by the cold. A broken branch, a footstep, a breath. Then they found the wreck. It wasn't a jet. It was a downed surveillance drone, half buried in snow. Smoke still curled from its cracked belly. And nearby, barely conscious, was a man in a shredded thermal suit, one leg twisted the wrong way, face blue. Riker rushed forward and checked for a pulse. "He's alive. Weak. Help me." Noah dropped the kit and went to work, tearing open the thermal blanket and starting the portable heater. Riker lifted the operative onto his shoulders with a grunt. They had to get back. Fast. The storm was tightening. Clouds bled into one another. Snow fell harder. The path back was gone. Noah triggered the flare gun. No signal from the base. Comms were out. They were on their own. They trudged forward, step by aching step. Riker stumbled once, nearly dropping the injured man. Noah caught him, one hand grabbing the collar of his jacket. "You good?" he asked. Riker nodded, breath ragged. "I've carried men before." "Not in this cold, you haven't." An hour passed. 2. The temperature plummeted. Noah's legs burned. His hands were numb inside his gloves. The injured man groaned once, then went silent. Finally, they saw it, the dark shape of the jet, barely visible through the snow. But something was wrong. Noah froze. Tracks. Footprints. Dozens of them, surrounding the jet. Riker cursed. "We've got company." Shapes moved in the blizzard, gray, shifting, human. Guns glinted. At least 6. Maybe more. Bandits. Mercenaries. Saboteurs. Out here, allegiance didn't matter. The smell of a wounded military asset was blood in the water. Riker lowered the operative behind a snowbank and cocked his rifle. Noah crouched, heart racing. He wasn't trained for combat. He fixed engines, not enemies. Stay low, Riker whispered. If I draw them off. No, Noah said. We stick together. Something passed between them. A look that meant more than tactics. They made their move. Riker fired first, drawing attention. Noah circled wide, slipping behind the jet. His hand shook as he opened the access panel. Again, his home. He climbed in, flipped the switches, bypassed the ignition protocols. Shots rang out behind him. He didn't look. He just breathed and listened. The engine coughed, then roared. The wind howled louder now. But this time, Noah roared back with it. He popped the canopy. Riker dove for the cockpit, dragging the operative across the ice. Bullets pinged off the fuselage. One caught Noah in the shoulder. He staggered, teeth clenched, blood warm against the freezing wind. But he didn't stop. They climbed in. The jet lurched, engines barely responding. And then, slowly, unbelievably, it lifted, rising to the blizzard like a scarred angel defying gravity and death. Noah looked down as the ground disappeared beneath them. He could still see the bandits scattering like insects, fading into white. Beside him, Riker let out a breath. That, he said, was insane. Noah smiled, blood running down his arm. You'd be surprised what flies when you believe in it. And as the storm closed behind them, Noah knew the real turbulence was still ahead. The base was under blackout. Emergency klaxons howled through the desert night, pulsing like a heartbeat of impending doom. Floodlights clicked on one by one, casting harsh white beams across the perimeter. Dust spiraled through the air as soldiers scrambled into defensive positions. From a northern ridge, a trail of smoke coiled like a serpent across the stars. Something had hit the outer fuel depot, and whoever fired the first shot wasn't done. Inside the command tent, chaos bloomed. Radios crackled with conflicting orders. A wall of monitors displayed grainy surveillance footage. Men in stolen uniforms, shoulder-mounted weapons, moving with precision. Not amateurs. Trained. Possibly rogue contractors. Possibly worse. General Riker's voice cut through the noise like a blade. I need air support on Grid 5. Now! We don't have any air-ready fighters, sir, came the sharp reply from a young lieutenant. Everything's grounded or under repair, except... All eyes turned toward the far end of the hangar. The battered F-35 sat alone in the dark, wings folded inward like a wounded hawk. Its hull was scarred from the mountain landing. Its right stabilizer still marked with a line of Noah's dry blood. It wasn't combat ready. Not really, but it could fly. Riker looked at the jet, then at Noah Briggs, who stood silent in the corner, arms crossed, a dark stain seeping to the bandage on his shoulder. You said she'd fly again, Riker said. Noah didn't flinch. She will. She's all we've got. Noah looked him dead in the eye. Then I'm going with her. You're not military. I'm the reason she's alive. The moment hung in the air like the pause before a lightning strike. Riker nodded once. Suit up. 20 minutes later, the hangar doors peeled open, screeching on cold steel. Wind tore through the bay as the jet taxied out under its own power. Soldiers lined the walls, silent, watching, some with disbelief, others with awe. Inside the cockpit, Riker adjusted his comms. You're bleeding through your bandage. I've flown with worse, Noah muttered, strapping into the back seat. Funny, I don't remember you being a pilot. I'm not, Noah said, but I know how to keep a jet from dying in the sky. Engines roared. Dust blasted into the air. The tarmac blurred beneath them. And then they were airborne. The night swallowed them whole. Above the desert, the world was a black canvas lit by fire. The fuel depot burned in the distance, orange flames licking the sky. Figures darted through the smoke. A supply convoy had already been hit. Trucks overturned like toys, cargo scattered across the sand. Visual on hostiles, Riker confirmed. About a dozen, heavily armed. Too many to land, Noah said, and we're out of missiles. I know. What's the plan? We improvise. He banked hard, circling over the wreckage. Noah leaned forward, eyes scanning the ground. The damage wasn't random. It was surgical, targeted. Someone knew exactly where to hurt them. We can't get low enough for small arms, Riker said. That stabilizer won't hold. Noah glanced at the readouts. Heat spike, power drain, all blinking red. It'll hold, he said, even though he wasn't sure. Below, a figure aimed a shoulder-fired missile. A plume of white fire streaked into sky. Incoming! Riker snapped. He rolled left hard. The jet twisted in midair. The missile missed by inches. We're not going to dodge the next one, Riker growled. We won't have to, Noah said, pulling open the rear maintenance bay. Wind screamed into the cockpit. He reached into the emergency flare rig, rerouted the line to the jet's belly, and primed it manually. You're insane, Riker muttered. Hit the burner on my mark. Noah braced himself. Now! Riker slammed the throttle. Heat surged. Noah triggered the flare manually. A burst of fire streaked from the jet, trailing a blinding glow. The second missile locked on it, exploding midair with a thunder that rattled the bones of the plane. The shockwave tossed him sideways. Alarms blared. The jet sputtered, then caught. Noah collapsed back into his seat, breathing hard. You're bleeding worse now, Riker said. Noah coughed. I'll bleed when we land. They circled again, this time lower. Through the smoke, Noah spotted something, a stolen fuel truck rolling toward the central tanks. If they hit that, he said, the whole base goes up. Riker saw it too. No guns. No missiles, he said. We've got one shot. What are you thinking? Riker pulled back, climbing fast. We're going to push her. Noah's eyes widened. We're already at critical stress. She'll fly, Riker said, jaw clenched. You said so yourself. The jet shot upward, engines howling. Then, at the peak of the climb, Riker rolled the aircraft into a dive, straight toward the fuel truck. Wind roared. Panels rattled. Screws popped. The truck driver looked up, eyes wide, just as the jet passed over him at 200 feet, its tailwind flipping the vehicle onto its side. The truck rolled once, twice, then exploded. Fire swallowed a hole. In the cockpit, Riker pulled up, barely clearing the flames. Cheers echoed over the radio. The base was safe. They flew in silence for a minute, breathless. Then Riker chuckled. Just once. You still not a pilot? Noah smiled faintly. Still just a mechanic. As they approached the runway, emergency lights lit the strip like a beacon. Noah leaned back, blood soaking through his sleeve. The world began to spin at the edges. You're going to pass out, Riker warned. Probably. You earned this, Briggs. But Noah wasn't listening. His thoughts had drifted back, to his brother, to the crash, to the shame, and now, to this moment, where redemption wasn't in words, but in fire and sky. The wheels touched down, the jet screeched, and rolled to a stop. When the canopy lifted, the crew swarmed them. Noah's vision blurred. Riker's voice sounded distant. Get a medic. But before the blackness claimed him, Noah looked up at the night sky and smiled, because he knew he had flown, and this time he hadn't fallen.